Prices at the grocery store keep creeping higher, and it's not just about inflation anymore. Storms are stronger, droughts are longer, and supply chains feel like they can snap at any moment. For families living on a fixed income, parents feeding a house full of kids, or students trying to stretch every dollar, one bad month could make the difference between a stocked pantry and empty shelves. Preparedness isn't just for doomsday preppers building bunkers. It's for everyday people who want to avoid panic when the next big storm, blackout, or price spike hits. The smartest way to prepare isn't by spending thousands overnight, but by slowly building a pantry of affordable, long-lasting foods that can keep your family fed no matter what happens. Today, we're looking at 10 essential foods that could save you money now and give you peace of mind later. And the best part? Every single one is easy to find, budget-friendly, and can last for years when stored properly. Let's start with one of the cheapest, longest-lasting staples you can buy. 1. White rice. When Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast, bread and pasta disappeared from store shelves in hours. Yet bags of rice often sat untouched. Not because it wasn't useful, but because many people didn't realize just how valuable it is. White rice is a powerhouse for survival. Cheap, calorie-dense, and versatile enough to pair with almost any protein or vegetable. It's the main source of daily calories for more than half the world's population for good reason. Properly stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, white rice can last 30 years or more. That means the bag you buy today could feed your family decades from now. Here's the trick. Don't just throw the bag into your pantry. Most store packaging has tiny holes that let in moisture and pests. Invest in food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids, and you'll have decades of carbohydrate security for just a few dollars a bag. For families on a budget, rice is a game changer. It stretches stews, bulks up stir-fries, and turns a can of beans into a complete filling meal for pennies. If you can only start with one staple this month, make it rice. You'll thank yourself later. 2. Canned meats. Imagine a supply chain slowdown that lasts weeks. Fresh meat prices double overnight, if you can even find it. That $2.99 pack of chicken thighs you used to grab without thinking now costs more than your electric bill. But the cans of chicken, tuna, or salmon you bought months ago, they're still sitting in your pantry, safe, tasty, and ready to eat. Canned meats are one of the most reliable protein sources you can store. They last for years, require no refrigeration, and can be eaten straight from the can if needed. During the early days of the COVID pandemic, I knew families who skipped the long meat counter lines entirely because they had already stocked up on vacuum-sealed pouches of salmon and chicken. While their neighbors paid $15 per pound for poultry, they were serving hearty meals from their stockpile at last year's prices. When choosing canned meats, look for low-sodium and high-protein options. Pouches often taste fresher than cans and take up less space. You can use them in soups, sandwiches, stir-fries, or just mixed with rice for a quick dinner. In a crisis, having a steady protein source is not just about nutrition. It's about keeping your family strong and reducing stress when everything else feels uncertain. 3. Dried beans and legumes. If you want a food that's cheap, nutritious, and nearly immortal in storage, dried beans and legumes are hard to beat. When paired with rice, they create a complete protein, meaning your body gets all the essential amino acids it needs without expensive meat. A 25-pound bag of black beans costs around $30 and contains hundreds of servings. Properly stored in airtight containers, beans can last over 30 years without losing nutritional value. That's not just food security, it's one of the best returns on investment you'll ever find at the grocery store. In emergencies, beans are more flexible than most people realize. You can cook them in soups, mash them into spreads, or even sprout them with just water to get fresh, crunchy greens in 3-4 days. Something that was a lifesaver for many during the 2011 Japan earthquake when fresh produce ran out. For families on a budget, beans are a quiet hero. They're filling, easy to flavor with whatever spices you have, and perfect for stretching other ingredients. When meat prices spike or shelves are bare, your bean stash can keep your household fed for weeks without a single trip to the store. 4. Honey. Honey isn't just a sweet treat. It's a survival superfood. Unlike sugar, honey never goes bad. Its low water content and natural antibacterial properties mean you can store it indefinitely without refrigeration. That makes it not only a calorie source, but also a form of long-term insurance for your pantry. During Venezuela's economic collapse, honey became a form of currency. Families traded it for essentials because it held value when paper money became worthless. In a crisis, honey offers quick, sustained energy without the blood sugar spikes and crashes you get from processed sweets. It can also serve as a natural medicine, helping soothe sore throats, heal minor cuts, and fight off bacterial infections. Prices for honey have already been rising due to climate change and declining bee populations. A 40% jump in cost over a single year isn't unheard of. If you see a good deal now, grab a few jars and store them in a cool, dry place. In a world where both food and medicine can become scarce, honey is one of the few items that can keep you fed, healthy, and even be used to barter. It's a sweet investment with serious survival value. 5. Salt. Salt might seem too ordinary to matter in an emergency, but history tells a different story. In times of economic collapse, salt has often been as valuable as money itself. During the 1990s, hyperinflation in parts of Eastern Europe, people traded salt for food, fuel, and other necessities because everyone recognized its worth. From a health perspective, salt is essential. It helps your body maintain electrolyte balance, which is especially important during stressful times when you may be working longer hours, eating less fresh food, or sweating more in hot weather. But beyond nutrition, salt is a powerful preservation tool. With just a few dollars worth, you can extend the life of meat, fish, or vegetables by weeks, buying yourself more time before spoilage sets in. The best part? Salt never expires. It's lightweight, easy to store, and dirt cheap compared to its potential value in a crisis. Whether you're seasoning food to keep morale up or curing meat to keep it safe, salt turns perishable items into long-lasting supplies. Don't underestimate it. When supply chains falter, having a stash of salt could mean the difference between wasting food and feeding your family for another month. 6. Vegetable oils. Cooking oil might not be the first thing you think of when preparing for a crisis, but without it, your cooking options shrink fast. You can't sauté vegetables, fry eggs, bake bread, or even make a decent salad dressing without some type of oil. It's a silent essential in almost every meal we make. The global supply of vegetable oils is more fragile than most people realize. In recent years, droughts in South America have destroyed soybean crops, and poor harvests in Canada have slashed canola oil production. These disruptions have already doubled prices in some areas, and shortages could make bottles disappear entirely from store shelves. Vegetable oils, whether canola, sunflower, soybean, or olive, store well for 2 to 3 years if kept in a cool, dark place. They're calorie-dense, which means they pack a lot of energy into a small space, critical when you need to stretch meals. If you find a good deal, buy extra and rotate through your stock. A pantry without cooking oil quickly limits your meal options, while a few stored bottles can keep your family eating well no matter what happens to the global market. 7. Wheat flour, whole grains. Wheat might seem like a basic ingredient, but it's the foundation of countless foods. Bread, pasta, pancakes, crackers, tortillas, and more. The problem is that much of the world's wheat supply comes from regions prone to disruption. Russia and Ukraine together account for about 20% of global wheat exports, and war in those areas has already shaken prices and availability worldwide. Add in unpredictable weather and shrinking crop yields, and wheat-based products can get expensive fast. During the early pandemic, flour disappeared from shelves overnight, not because supply collapsed, but because of panic buying. Now imagine that happening during a genuine production shortage. A 3-day bag of flour could easily jump to 15 if you can find it at all. For long-term storage, whole wheat berries or hard grains are better than flour. Stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, they can last a decade or more, while flour typically stays fresh for only about a year. You can grind the grains into flour as needed, ensuring fresh, nutrient-rich baking anytime. For households on tight budgets, wheat is both a daily staple and an insurance policy. A modest stockpile now can keep homemade bread, pasta, and baked goods on your table for years, even if store shelves go bare. 8. Canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes might not sound exciting, but they can completely transform bland survival meals. When you're weeks into eating rice, beans, and basic staples, a can of tomatoes can add the flavor and color your family desperately needs to keep morale high. They're also surprisingly healthy. Canned tomatoes often contain more lycopene, a powerful antioxidant, than fresh ones, especially when cooked during processing. This makes them not just a taste booster, but a nutrition booster as well. During the early pandemic, tomato shortages were so severe that some stores rationed how many cans or fresh tomatoes customers could buy. Yet in many emergencies, people overlook canned tomatoes entirely. That's a mistake. These cans can form the base for pasta sauces, soups, stews, chili, and countless other meals, stretching your food supply and keeping meals interesting. High-acid foods like tomatoes store well for 18 months or more past their expiration date if kept in a cool, dry place. At less than $1 a can in normal times, they're one of the cheapest ways to improve both the taste and nutrition of your emergency meals. 9. Pasta. Pasta isn't just a pantry filler, it's a morale booster. In stressful situations, familiar foods can bring comfort, especially for kids. I once heard from a family who survived a major hurricane. After 2 weeks of eating nothing but emergency rations, their children were in tears at mealtime. Then one night, their mom made spaghetti with jarred marinara over a camp stove. For the first time in days, everyone smiled. Pasta is incredibly versatile. It pairs with any protein, canned meat, beans, or even just vegetables, and can be dressed up with canned tomatoes, herbs, or a splash of cooking oil. It cooks quickly, which means you'll use less fuel, and a single box can feed a family for just a couple of dollars. Stored in its original packaging in a cool, dry place, pasta lasts 8 to 12 years. For budget-conscious households, it's a cost-effective way to stock up on calories that people will actually enjoy eating. In a crisis, that matters more than you think. Meals aren't just about survival. They're about keeping spirits up and families together. 10. Powdered milk. Powdered milk might not get much attention when people talk about emergency food, but in a real crisis, it can be worth its weight in gold, especially for families with children. It provides complete nutrition, including protein, calcium, and vitamin D, and unlike fresh milk, it doesn't require refrigeration until it's mixed with water. During Lebanon's economic collapse, milk prices jumped from about $3 to over $25 a gallon when it was even available. Families who had powdered milk stored away suddenly found themselves holding a valuable, tradable commodity. It was used not just for drinking, but for cooking, baking, and making comforting breakfasts that kept life feeling a little more normal. Whole milk powder typically lasts over 2 years in proper storage, and it takes up far less space than liquid milk, just a quarter of the volume for the same amount of servings. In an extended emergency, being able to pour a bowl of cereal for your kids or make pancakes on a Saturday morning can be a huge boost to morale. If you see powdered milk on sale, it's worth grabbing a few containers. It's not glamorous, but when fresh dairy disappears, you'll be glad you thought ahead. The truth is, we can't predict exactly when the next major disruption will hit. It could be a storm that knocks out power for a week, a sudden price spike that makes everyday groceries unaffordable, or a supply chain breakdown that leaves store shelves bare. But what we can do is prepare in ways that make sense for our budgets and our families. You don't need to rush out and buy everything at once. Start small. This week, maybe it's a bag of rice. Next week, a few cans of meat or jars of honey. Over time, you'll build a pantry that's not just a backup plan, it's a source of peace of mind. For retirees on fixed incomes, parents feeding a big household, or young people just starting out, these 10 foods offer both security and savings. They're affordable now, they last for years, and when the unexpected happens, they could mean the difference between feeling stressed and feeling secure. The best time to prepare was yesterday. The second best time is today. Start with what you can, keep adding when you're able, and know that every step you take is an investment in your family's future.